No, I'm a fan of horror movies. A big fan of horror movies because it's fun to be terrifying. You know, it's almost catharsis in a way because you go through the journey of being scared and then you're okay at the other end. It's almost like positive stress. So with that said, I enjoyed Don't Look Up because it was so terrifying. Because of a situation like this did happen, and if there were certain people in charge, that maybe it could end up being like that. It goes to show, even if a small percentage doesn't even believe that something is there, even though it's in front of their faces, and they're the ones actually in power, or they're the ones causing enough trouble, it can have that effect. So the movie was satirical. It, but great satire is based on realism. It kind of takes something and turns up the volume, but it's like, did they turn up the volume though? And we see it, whether I know the movie's an allegory to climate change, and I would argue an allegory to COVID-19 as well, to where it's listening to the scientists. And with climate change, the scientists have been yelling about this for a long, long time, and there's a difference between scientists who have the evidence and people in power that put forward the policy, which is hopefully based on the evidence. And when it's not based on the evidence, it could have disastrous effects. And so the movie, is an allegory of the comet to climate change, but climate change is moving at a much slower pace than the comet did, but we see it. We see it all the time, and it just seems to be ramping up. And there's always, ways to hopefully change it. If not, there are ways to adapt to it. And then hopefully prepare for the consequences of this, because we see some things happening now, whether there's storms or migrations because of storms, and because of migrations, that migration, that causes a whole lot of tension as well with so many different factors. And it's not listening to the scientists. And I think the President Orlean, Meryl Streep is one of the greatest actresses I've ever seen. Just really the elite of the elite, I think. Because she has such a perfect blend of technique along with rawness, that she's really just forced to be reckoned with. And the character she played, the president, was, and her administration, along with her, billionaire benefactor, tried to hedge the bets. They had a basically sure thing, and they aborted the mission. They turned it around because they hedged their bets with, well, look at all the money we can make, under the guise of, we'll use this to help humanity. Meanwhile, the richest people could help a lot, if not all of humanity, if they just paid their fair share in taxes. So the movie kind of tied that into, just really a comment on the modern culture these days. With all that being said, there's always something we can do, and I refrain from using the word always because I'm not big into black and white thinking, either or, always, never. But there's always something we can do, even if the odds don't seem in our favor. It's the fight that keeps us going. So it's the realism of 2021 in how people speak out, and then social media could pile onto them either to support or to try to bring them down, and then factions are formed and sides are made, and few things piss me off more than both sides. So when I say sides, typically there's a side that has the evidence on their side and the side that doesn't, and to equate those sides is very, 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 very harmful to what's going on. So the movie kind of comments on that. The performances were all great, and I really think this kind of thing would be the reaction, where they'd be like, 20% don't even believe the comet's there, even though it's in front of their face. For whatever reason, belief is such a powerful thing. And then the results of, I guess the coolest part, even though the ending is just such a downer, is at the very end, where Dr. Mindy and his family and Dr. Oglethorpe and Kate and the Yule, I usually don't remember the characters' names, but I just saw the movie, so it's fresh in my mind. They shut the news off, and they got together and just had a normal dinner and just spoke about stuff that bonds them. It's silly stuff like, about the taste of homemade pie versus the store-bought pie, and then what they're grateful for. And I think the movie, the message, I think, was clear in that while it's really important to get news from credible sources, like I say at the end of every one of these podcasts, you have to get news from credible sources. At the same time, you need to shut it off every once in a while and do things that you love to keep you going. So it's the dance and the balance of being informed versus being over-informed, because when you're over-informed, that can cause a paralysis. So it's being informed and, trying not to despair, because despair brings paralysis. Paralysis is, you don't move, and then you don't do anything. So I always like to think, wow, there are many, many problems. Now, what can I do about it? And then what can we do about it? And that's where organizing and joining groups and doing certain things could hopefully bring about the change that we need. But this was a terrifying movie, and I laughed out loud at some parts. I was very, very frightened at the end, because you just see it coming and you see the way people react, and it's so frustrating. It's in front of their face. 2 + 2 is 4, and they see 2 + 2 is 27. And again, it seems to be the ones who know that 2 + 2 is 4, they seem to have to kowtow to the ones who believe 2 + 2 is 27. Instead of like, it's 4, listen to us. It's always like, well, you got to listen to them and you got to validate what you're saying, which is what you have to do, because that's how you at least increase the chances to break through. Unfortunately, the belief is so powerful sometimes that it could take a while. So it's really, at least politically, and in conversation, speaking to someone that you have a connection with, listening to them, validating their fears, and and agreeing with what you agree with and what is actually true. So they may believe 2 + 2 is 27, but they could believe 5 + 5 is 10. So you start from there. You say, oh, okay, 5 + 5 is 10, and let's build on that. So that's how the change is made, but politically, because things happen so fast, it's trying to appeal to the ones who may agree that 2 + 2 is 4, but, don't really vote for the people who think 2 + 2 is 4, or they vote or they don't encourage other people who may not be voting to believe that 2 + 2 is 4. So it's really trying to get the turnout of the people who don't participate, as well as some of the fence sitters who can go either way. So it's using those techniques in listening and validating any concerns and agreeing what you agree on, and and saying, okay, well, we disagree on this, but what can we work on here? It's a lot easier said than done. But I think the movie really ramped up the feelings of anxiety really well, the feelings of dread, and just how different people react to things. And we're seeing this in real time in the world. In 2020, it's December 30th now. And, the year is almost over. And, it's reflecting on what has been done and what we can do. So, but getting back to the movie, just really well done. When movies can evoke any kind of feeling from me, aside from being pissed off that it's so bad, I don't like that. But when they evoke the feeling which is their goal to evoke, I think it's laughter, it's anxiety, and hopefully motivation to say, well, we don't want this to happen here. These are the things we can do about it. Yeah. So anyway, overall well done, well acted. I don't understand yeah, I guess the movie wasn't received well. At least some of the things I read, and granted, it was just the headlines. But I thought this movie was really good. I didn't think it was bad at all. I think it's actually an important movie, for future generations to see if they want a timestamp on what the world was like. A satire of what the world was like. I don't want to go into complete dread because there are, so many hopeful moments. Just the science behind the vaccines is incredibly hopeful. Just that and how the technology just really, because of it was an emergency, it is still an emergency, how it can move so fast, and how just the dedication to the workers trying to fight the virus, and and talking about climate change, to the activists who are really putting themselves out there to say this is a 5-alarm fire now, and just because it's not out your window like the comet doesn't mean that it's not going to affect you sometime. I live in New York, and a couple of months ago we had some really bad storms. I'm in a suburb of what's considered New York City. So there's Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, and then Staten Island and the Bronx. That's considered New York City. But Manhattan and New York City are interchangeable. But there were some bad storms that killed people, that flooded their basements because of climate change, and plus the basements weren't up to par anyway, but it was such a quick flood. It flooded the subway systems. It looked like in the streets. It looked like an apocalyptic movie. So chances are we will see more and more of those. So it's how we adapt to those, and so people don't get harmed. And I believe the human race is quite adaptable, provided a comet doesn't hit us. And even if there is a comet, I would imagine, I hope, I don't think there's going to be like someone like Ishmael, whatever his name was, that will say, well, let's slow down and you're going to do my bidding. I mean, I hope not. I'm not that cynical, at least not yet. Even if there is a comet or an asteroid, hopefully, science is working their way to deflect it, destroy it, find ways to not kill us. So that being said, there are many types of comets in our lives, whether it's the coronavirus, whether it's preventable measures we can take, or do the best we can to take these preventable measures to stay alive as much as we can. So it's something like not smoking cigarettes, hopefully getting some movement in, just living holistically, a healthy life, stress. It's hard to say, but a life that has decreased amount of stress. So holistically, and try to just keep you going and keep you feeling good. Quality of life and quantity of life. With those two combined, I think you'll be all right. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's it for me. I'm gonna go crawl in a corner somewhere. No, I'm actually gonna clean up my place. I just moved, so it's I moved maybe a month or two ago, so it's just settling into that. So things are going well. I have a roommate. I'm living with my friend Aaron, who's been on the podcast before. So that means, since we are roommates now, hopefully we will do a Star Wars podcast soon. But anyway, I don't even know if I talked about Don't Look Up, the movie itself, that much, but certainly the effect that it's had on me, as well as what I think it was trying to say. But overall, great job to the makers of this, from the actors to the crew to everyone. All right, so that being said, feel free to rate, share this podcast, and you can find me on Twitter at MMAM Podcast. You can find me on Facebook at MMAM Podcast. You can email me at mmamampodcast@gmail.com. And like I said before, get your information from credible sources. Some sources like the New York Times, BBC, NPR, Washington Post, USA Today, just to name a few, because you want to be informed. And with that information, hopefully you make the right decisions when it comes to not only how you live your life, but how you vote, voting is incredibly important, and you want to vote for the party and the Democratic Party, really, the party that believes in facts and science as a way to get us through, because the Republican Party are just not there, unfortunately. Anyway, all right. Take care, everyone. Happy New Year. I'll probably release this after the New Year, but Happy New Year anyway. All right, on to 22. Later.